this is our Disney themed run through of the Magenta Quest, what we call our Magenta Way program, where we're looking at transformation on the back of a difficult period at Magenta, the downgrade, and how we're getting through that and building a culture where it's an amazing culture at Magenta actually, and everyone is so willing to change and adapt and work so hard. So it's to share that journey with you. So the adventure continues today. So what we've been working on since I last came and spoke to you, the customer experience project, which we've actually been doing in partnership with Golden Marzipan, has been going really well with our colleagues. And some of my colleagues on the call today have been through the process, and we're doing agile sprints here, really getting to the bottom of what is it that we want to achieve through our customer experience project at Magenta. What does customer experience look like for us in the future? What's our strategy and how are we going to get there and achieve that? So we've been doing a series of workshops, lots of different colleagues involved, been using different technology that we haven't been using before, which we're very thankful to Golden Marzipan for their support with, because I'm not sure my technical abilities would have got us to where they have. But really good, short, sharp sessions where we're really understanding what we do well, but also what challenges we face. And then looking at, okay, so how are we going to move those forwards? What's the priorities? So we're doing the scene setting at the moment. And once we've done all of that work, we're going to have loads and loads of data, and it's looking really good already, and lots of common themes coming through that will then turn into agile sprints where we actually work through those problems and say, right, how do we solve this then? How do we move forward? So it's really empowering for our colleagues actually to go through this process, because they're seeing right from the start, well, I identified this challenge and this is where we've got to, and we've all voted on it, we've collaborated, and we've got to a point where we all agree mostly that this is where we need to go. But if we don't fully agree with that and maybe we want to go a different way, at least we understand why we're going that way and everyone can get behind it. So that's really positive. And I say, some great feedback. The energy on the calls has been amazing. We've had no negativity, it's all been positive. So I think that's a real success story for us so far, that we're able to deliver these workshops in the environment we're working in, when we're not really that comfortable with the technology and we're doing something very different that we would all love to be together. So you get that energy in the room, but actually we've made it work over using Teams and Mural. So that's been a fantastic success, and I'd love to share more about that with you in the future. So we've also been looking at the whole change environment. This is something that needed to be done. I'm sure lots of you will have the same in your organisations, when you know there's a lot of change going on, but you can't necessarily quantify it. And you know that lots of colleagues are involved in so many things outside of their normal day job, plus trying to cope with working from home and all the challenges that that brings, and also adapting to new ways of having to deliver services. So what we wanted to do was put on one piece of paper, it's a big piece of paper, everything we're doing. What are all the projects that we've got going on? Can we achieve all of these? What are our priorities? How do they all map back to our annual plan? So this has been a real joint effort across the business, using our middle leadership team, our heads of service, our assistant directors as well, our senior leadership team, to get on a piece of paper what we are doing and to be able to see that, because that really helps us then in terms of prioritization. Everyone's project, well, everyone thinks their project is the most important, but how can we actually quantify that and say, no, this is where we're going to focus our effort, and actually if something big comes along tomorrow, what are we going to stop doing? So we need to go through that process. So I've just taken a screenshot of it. You won't read the detail, which is fine, but just to show you the size of it. So hopefully you can see there our mapping. It is a piece, it's a work in progress, but this just shows you each of those yellow sticky notes is a project in its own right. So that's what we're working on at the moment, and it's absolutely huge. Now, some of those projects are nearly finished, some haven't started yet, but these are all the things we want to achieve. And then what we've done as sort of the second stage is to go back and say, okay, so we have our annual plan deliverables, we have our vibe, which are our 4 categories under the annual plan that we deliver against. How do these projects map against those? So we've done a mapping exercise, and if you were to zoom in, you'd see little traffic light system which would show you which they map against. But this has been really helpful in terms of a visual to show our executive team and our senior leadership team, this is what we've got going on. We have always said we've got a lot going on, but now we actually know what that is and we're able to quantify it. And there's lots of projects on there that have come through teams and through heads of service that we didn't actually know were projects in their own right, or how big they were. So we knew what was going on, but it's interesting to get it on a piece of paper and show, and then we can show how everything links together. So the next stage with this is to look at, okay, so who's involved in each of these? What are the timescales? Can we actually deliver all of these? Are we pulling the same people too often and getting them involved in too many things and actually stretching them to a point where they're going to be overstretched, and actually then their expertise isn't as useful as it would be if we had them focus on one or two different projects? So that's our next stage, but this has been really helpful for us just to quantify what we're doing and how much volume there is, but also starting to have the conversation about what is a project, what tools do we need to manage our projects, have we got correct governance around some of these bigger projects, and we can start to have those conversations now. And this really is the start of that professional project management toolkit and starting to understand what that means for us at Magenta. So we also have our Magenta Behaviors. Quite handy that there's 7 dwarfs and there's 7 Magenta Behaviors that spell out Magenta. So it all ties together quite nicely. We don't have Grumpy as one of ours, but I wanted to just share with you the behaviors that we've all signed up to as an organisation. And this is the start of us looking at behaviors in terms of job performance as well. And that this is what we expect as a minimum. They're not anything that you wouldn't expect to see. There's nothing really quirky in there, but this is what we expect from all of our colleagues, and we expect them to demonstrate this in their daily role. So these are the Magenta behaviors. So I say they spell out Magenta, which was a complete coincidence, by the way, but it worked. So we're going with it. So we have mutual respect, all about simplicity, getting to know you, empowerment, no blame, teamwork, and always improving. And as you can see here, a lot of the work we're doing at the moment around the Magenta Way and Magenta Futures is around all about simplicity, getting to know you with customer experience, empowerment. We're empowering more people than ever to get involved in the decision making of where we go next. No blame. We're solving problems in a very open and collaborative way. We are definitely working as a team, and we are always improving. We're challenging ourselves. And something that we've launched in the last couple of weeks is we're actually doing staff awards at our annual event, but it is our really strange annual Christmas event via the platform of Teams. And we're actually doing our awards based on these behaviors as well, and showing how those behaviors are being lived through the organization. So we haven't rammed these down people's throats. We haven't gone out and said, right, show us how you work as a team, but these are the principles we're working to, and this is just who we are. This is the Magenta Way. So we don't need dedicated project to deliver these, because this is just what we expect. This is who we are. So moving on now to the where I'll bring in some colleagues so you don't have to listen to my voice anymore, and we're going to run through the Rising Stars program. I think this has been a real success, a real collaboration around the organisation. Everyone's got behind this in an amazing way. We've delivered it in short timescales, and I know some of my HR colleagues are on this call, maybe would have preferred a bit longer to deliver this, but we got there and it's been a real success. And those who've gone through the Rising Stars programme and been successful, and those who were unsuccessful, have already felt huge benefit from this programme being rolled out. It's completely unique to the individual, and I'm going to bring in Peter Gavin if I can, who is one of our Rising Stars. So I think it's great for you to hear from him. It's all right me saying it's brilliant, but sorry, we're not going to bring in Peter. Oh yes, no we're not. It's Rob and Rich. I've got it completely wrong. We're going to bring in Rob and Rich, who are the team behind Rising Stars. So they're from our organisational development team, and they've really been living this daily. So I want to I think Rich is going to come in and just talk to you about his experiences of Rising Stars. So I'll hand over to you, Rich.
Sorry, am I unmuted? Yeah, thank you. Great. So yeah, I'm Rich, everyone. I'm the trainer and OD assistant in the HR and OD team. I usually normally just book things like training and stuff, but it's been quite a big project I've been involved in for the last 2-3 months. Yeah. So the main bit of involvement I'm doing with the Rising Stars is I'm doing all the admin behind it. So arranging sessions with companies who we're working with, like talent and potential, corporate business solution. So I'm working collaboratively with them to make sure all sessions are suitable for the Rising Stars. Obviously, you can appreciate there's 28 of the Rising Stars who are also carrying out the day job as well. So they're not always available for sessions when ideally I'd like them to be, but it's all about working around everything and coming together so they can take part in everything that they need to as part of the Rising Stars programme. As well as talent and potential and corporate business solutions, so far I've worked collaboratively with the senior leadership team and the executive leadership team who consist of our assistant directors and our executive directors, including Jane is one of the executive directors, so she's been involved in creating blurbs for the mentor programme. That it's not happened yet, but some of the Rising Stars, well, actually, in fact, all of the Rising Stars will choose a mentee, a mentor, to obviously educate them on developing in their career. So the way we've done that, we went out to all the assistant directors and executive directors. We just asked them just to write a bit of a blurb on themselves about how they got involved in their role, what their role consists of, and as well as that, just what their interests are outside of work. The mentor program is probably going to start around January, February, I think it is, and we're going to give the option to the Rising Stars to choose their mentor based on the blurb that the directors have wrote. So obviously they can match who they think they'd be most suitable to go with. So that's a bit about the mentor side. So far, what we have done, I'll tell you what the Rising Stars have completed so far. So we're working with talent and potential. I'll work quite closely with Alison, who's the admin on their side. So far, they've provided professional career coaching to the Rising Stars. Obviously, helps them develop their career, gives them ideas of how they can obviously progress throughout the company. As well as this, they provide career development webinars, things like busting career myths, and so just other ideas just to help them obviously progress and give them ideas of how they want to move forward with their career. Like I said, it can be quite a challenge arranging the dates around everything. Like I said, there's 28 of them. So, and like I said, they've all got day jobs as well. So it's just making sure that I ask them in advance, really, just to make sure that they can block the odd hour out of the diary to attend, and obviously just keeping in communication with Alison from Talent Potential, just to keep each other updated, so we're on top of things, really. The next company I've worked with so far is Corporate Business Solutions, and they've provided the Rising Stars with a psychometric analysis tool called Luminous Spark, which sort of dives into their personality and their traits, and which then links into their working life. So things that they probably wouldn't really notice, which can have an effect on their working life. So as part of the application process, they actually had to complete an online questionnaire, and they got a workbook back about all their traits, what they mean, what the personality means in relation to work. So following that, I had to set up three feedback classes with Louisa from Corporate Business Solutions to just pretty much just explain what all the feedback means, what the workbook means, just so they can, obviously from a set of eyes who knows all about that, so they can obviously implement that into their day job and put that into practice, obviously, to develop in their career. So that's a bit about what we've done so far for the Rising Stars. Like I said, the mentors are next, should be taking place January, February. Obviously, you can appreciate that there was a lot of people who did apply for the Rising Stars, and we could only take 28. There was about 30 disappointed people who weren't able to join on, but they still have been supported. They also completed the Luminous Spark questionnaire online. So feedback sessions are now being booked in with them to obviously understand again what the Rising Stars got about their personality, their traits, and what that can mean in relation to work. and they've also been given access to Talent Potential's career management platform, Career Burst, so that can help them manage the career, again, give them ideas and resources about developing in their role. There's been quite a few challenges. Like I said, obviously, everybody's got their own day job, so it's just having to work and compromise around when suitable for others. So I'd say the best way is just obviously checking in advance with them, maybe a month in advance, just to, like I said, about blocking the diary out and just making themselves available for the time that they need to be. Yeah, keeping organised is probably the hardest thing. Like I said, I normally just book training courses and stuff for about 2 or 3 people, but with it being 28 Rising Stars, it's having to chase up and make sure they're all booked onto the right things. So as you can appreciate, it's been quite a lot of work, but I've enjoyed it very much. And the last challenge that we've done, so we set up a new training booking system literally just before the Lumina feedback session started, and it was kind of a bit of a dummy run for the first Lumina feedback sessions that we needed to get the Rising Stars booked onto the sessions, and obviously that was the first course that I set up on there. So I was obviously a bit, with not much experience, and I was obviously a bit hesitant if it's going to go to plan, but luckily it all went fine, and they all got booked on fine, so all good so far. Hopefully it carries on that way. I'll pass you over on to Rob now, and he'll explain more about the whole the Rising Stars on the whole. Obviously I've just spoke you through a few things that they've done so far, but yeah, I'm sure Rob will give you a bit of a bigger picture about it, so thanks.
Okay, thanks very much, Rich. Okay, so I should say howdy, I suppose. Just to let everybody know, my name's Rob. I'm the Organisational Development Manager. Rich is my favourite deputy, I suppose, if you want to put it in that context. And we've got, hopefully you're all familiar with the meme which I've chosen for our picture, which is it's where Buzz is talking to Woody and mentioning that there are stars everywhere, and that was part of the need and the reason why the program came around. And I wanted to talk just very briefly about the need for the program, the purposes, some of the logic behind it, and a little bit about how we're going to deploy the program itself. So I suppose the need of the program itself came around primarily. We knew that we had talent right the way throughout the organization, but what we wanted to do is just make sure that we had a good program, an identifiable program for people to align to. That we did have a program before this called Aspiring Managers. I think that probably just become a little bit commonplace, a little bit less attractive, and we needed to create a bit more of a buzz, I suppose, is a different way of putting it. So we had the rebrand, relaunch. We had a very open application program put out to everybody. The other reasons why we probably wanted to go down this route is that we wanted to give a very, very strong message about the development routes for everybody throughout the organization, but particularly partnering with our building services team as well, just to make sure that that the perceived barrier for entry into the managerial side of the organization was broken down, and so that they felt that everybody in there felt more comfortable with applying and going in that direction. But it also gave us an opportunity to identify the stars which came out from the adversity which we faced throughout this year. A lot of people rose to the occasion and really stood up and started to perform very strongly, of which you're going to hear from one of our rising stars very shortly. And this was an avenue for us to be able to reward those people as well, and also to demonstrate a commitment to our team, and a very strong commitment which we have towards achieving platinum with IIP, which is another one of our big sort of goals for the organisation. Overall, though, I mean, to continue the Woody analogy, we wanted to get people to reach for the sky. I mean, that was you know, to understand their potential and to move forward. The rebrand and bringing everything under one umbrella really helped raise the profile of the program. We got some great discussion right the way throughout the organisation. People talking about it. My phone was very regularly going off on all times of the day. People inquiring about, how do I apply? Am I okay to apply? Do I have the necessary skills, etc.? And just making sure that we were reinforcing that with people as well. We wanted it to be inclusive. We wanted it to be open. We wanted to be very encouraging and insightful for people, and wanted people to get some good value out of it. So we wanted to make sure that that was very clear from the start, and that we wanted to make sure that they were aware that we were going to support people who were unsuccessful as well. That was a huge part of the program, as Rich has already alluded to as well. Working with our key partners in Talent and Potential and the Lumina Spark team, we then went ahead and scheduled a very sort of logical program for everybody, where we started with the assessments, with the supporting of the applications themselves. We got through that analysis tool to give a little bit more insight for people, give a bit more self-awareness, self-realization, and that was continued with the Lumina Spark feedback, and then that graduated onto the individual coaching sessions, which were then scheduled. So each of the Rising Stars received an individual coaching session of 2 hours, where those were the questions, the really soul-searching questions about what they wanted to do, what they've already achieved, and how they want to get there, and where they want to get to. And that will then fold on very nicely to some of the webinars which we've been running, which is about how to develop yourself, how to develop your brand, how to be a good mentee, which was a very key a very key learning piece for us to put into place before the mentor program moved into full graduation, as Rich has already covered off as well. So that takes us up to around about now time, where we've got the marriage between the mentors and the mentees happening. Throughout this point, we've encouraged very good communication through the Teams portal to allow people to give us feedback and to give us consistent evaluation throughout as well, how the program is going. Rich has been instrumental in a lot of that communication and making sure that everything is going forwards in the right direction. We've got further coaching sessions scheduled after the mentor program is continuing for a while. There are going to be further supporting webinars at that stage. Then we graduate to a point where we then expect the Rising Stars to have a great idea about where they want to go, what sort of direction they're heading in, and then we can implant them into the organisation for some shadowing, some job shadowing, and some real sort of learning experience. So the idea being that we sort of, throughout the program, with the webinars and with the mentors, we sort of educate intimately, and then they will experience holistically how they put that into practice, and then that'll sort of cement the learning for them. And then lastly, we move on to the external sort of training programs. So we've got some great programs for each of the individuals, and we also want them to go and continue their trips out into conference, and then potentially looking at partnering with some other organizations to see if we can get external job shadowing programs as well. So that's it for me. You've already heard from a deputy in Star Command, but I think you now need to hear from one of the Rising Stars. So I'll pass you over to Peter.
So Peter's been with Magenta for 13 years, and he works in our building services department, and he saw Rising Stars as a massive opportunity to show what we can do in the organisation. And he has truly embraced what it is to be a rising star. He's made relationships across the business that he didn't have before. So he's, in his own words, sort of become friends with people he'd never met before, even though they'd probably worked there for an equal amount of time. He's looked for where he may have gaps in his own knowledge. So, for example, around IT, and he's found rising stars who are from the IT team, and he's phoned them and talked to them and said, right, I've got this idea. How do I make this work? And he's really pushing the boundaries of who we are as an organisation. He's come up with some...
He's coming back in, by the way, Pete.
Oh, is he back
Fiona?
in? Right, I'm going to shut up, but he'll tell it far better than I will.
Well, good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well and staying safe. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you all. My name's Peter Gavin, and I'll be giving an introduction about myself, my personal experience with the Rising Star, and what I'm looking to gain from this programme. I've worked for Magenta Living now for over 13 years, and I began my career as an electrical apprentice. I progressed through the organisation, gained appropriate qualifications in the mandatory fields, and I'm currently a qualified supervisor within the electrical department. The Rising Star was put up for application in mid-July, and this was my chance to seize the moment and grasp it with both hands. I knew this was a golden opportunity not to be missed, and that I would benefit from this platform to enhance my career. My short-term goal is to advance through this programme and utilise all the amazing resources that it has to offer, and to maximise my full potential. My long-term ambition is to become Managing Director. I know this may seem a stretch target, but in my opinion, I feel it's either go big or go home. This is my aspiration, and at the end of the day, this is what the Rising Star programme is all about. There was a high volume of competitive applications for the Rising Star programme, and I was extremely proud of myself being one of the top 28 successful candidates. Since then, I've been extremely busy, being coached and developed into a forward-thinking leader. The programme began by completing 2 online assessments, the first one being Big 5 assessments. This was used to identify which of my values and behaviours I aligned to most and gauge my cognitive skills. This was achieved by completing a series of questions through timed exercise. This assignment was to give my Rising Star coach an insight to my strengths and motivation. I was asked to maximise my time spent in the following areas: strengths that energise me, ambition, enthusiasm, integrity, nurturing and pride. I was also asked to develop in areas to do with people manager, persuasive and resilience. The broad outline of our first meeting was to get a bit to know about me and my career aspirations, understand what I wanted to achieve from the Rising Star programme, to discuss strengths and motivation reports and what insights that it could provide. I also discussed what technical and leadership developments I would like to access as part of the programme. My first meeting was with Amanda Whiteford, who is my Rising Star coach, and we discussed my first career goal. I chose to enhance my skills in people management, as this was an area that I'd like to develop further in. Later that evening, I formulated an action plan and implemented what Amanda and I had discussed earlier on through the day. I began by mapping out my first ever development plan. Started off by brainstorming all the relevant information that we discussed throughout the day. One of my goals within people management was to understand interview techniques. So I decided to ask my manager if I could sit in on one of the electrical apprenticeship interviews. All I was open for was to take a few notes, get a flavour of what was going on, and see what the interview techniques I could pick up along the way. To my surprise, he asked me to join the interview panel and interview the potential electrical apprentices. I helped interview 3 very nervous but extremely young, intelligent, bright individuals. And no, before you ask, I didn't include myself in this scenario. I thoroughly enjoyed this experience, and it was a great insight to see how the panel prepared and conducted interviews. It was actually quite pleasing to see what it was like on the other side. The second assignment was called Collaborate Business Solutions. This organisation produced a picture of my strengths. After me completing the test, I received the colour profile, which showed my preferred way of working and communicating with others. This assignment helped me not only understand my strengths, but also identify my dominant behaviours. It showed me how to work with those who are opposite and in some cases the same as me. These attributes were going to be explained in our workshop, And this was to help me understand colours in more depth and how I could use them to progress in day-to-day life. Louisa Scullin orchestrated our first virtual Lunar Sparks workshop. This was a very interactive and informative day, which introduced me fully to the Lunar Sparks and what it was all about. In my opinion, the course was extremely rewarding, and it's given me a better understanding of myself and raised my awarenesses around me. The beauty of this course is not only to identify my qualities, but it's also helped me to adapt to other people's preferred Mandela. The last course I attended was arranged by Talent Pool, Talent and Potential. This involved me attending a webinar presented by Sarah Hobbs. The first webinar was about the busting career myths. This gave me clarity on preconceived notions that there are no set paths for me to actually follow within an organisation. Other webinars have been arranged and I'm looking forward to the next one. For me, these are extremely exciting times, and the Rising Star is above and beyond my wildest expectations. It is an incredible opportunity to propel my career to great heights. I'm not only proving to myself that I can push myself out of my comfort zones and I can adapt to various work streams within our organisation. This programme has presented the platform to utilise my ideas, my imagination to think outside the box and communicate with some amazing, absolutely fantastic people. This is my time to shine, but I understand that it's down to me as an individual to invest as much time and effort into this golden opportunity. I'm looking forward to the future when I'm reminiscing about the days of the Rising Star programme and the massive part it played in me becoming a managing director. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Peter. That's brilliant.
I'm going to give Peter a little round of applause because I know we had a discussion and Peter said, this is going to put me well out of my comfort zone, but I'm going to do it. So just fantastic, Peter. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks very much for asking me to attend.
Well done, Peter.
Thank
No
you.
problem. So I hope that gives you a flavour. I think, as I say, I could talk about this as much as I like, but you've heard there from one of our rising stars and actually what it means to Peter in his career. And we all have no doubt that he's got a very bright future, because what he hasn't covered is how amazing he's been in terms of bringing forward suggestions and being part of all the other things we're doing as well. So it's been great. His name is now well known in a very good way across the organisation. So fantastic. So appreciate this is a little bit of a longer one this morning. So I'm going to very quickly talk about, hopefully, if I'm invited back for a fourth session, really want to talk
as always, Fiona, as always.
Brilliant. I just keep inviting myself back. Is that next time it'd be great to talk about tying it all together. So all this work may not seem like it's leading towards digital transformation for us as an organisation in the future, but it absolutely is. And it's about how are we, I've used this little picture here, all these balloons individually don't make a massive difference, but all together we are making a huge difference. We're increasing our digital capability. We're looking at our customers, and all of this leads towards digital transformation. So I'd really like to talk about that next time and hopefully bring along one of our more digital literate members of the team that isn't me to talk about what that actually means in terms of digital transformation and our strategy around that. And that concludes for today. So I really hope you found that useful. Again, huge thanks to Rich, Rob and Peter for coming along, because it was great for you to hear from them. And I'm glad that everything I said while I was filling in, Peter reiterating that I didn't get it all horribly wrong. So it all went well, but thank you very much.